Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be discussing Atletico Madrid's new signings. Some of them have been completed. Some of them are set to be complete. Can they compete with Barcelona and Real Madrid? We'll talk about Morocco destroying Egypt to win their first ever medal in the men's Olympic soccer. We'll talk about Mauricio Pochettino emerging as the top candidate for the USMNT managerial position. We'll discuss the men's soccer Olympic gold medal match tomorrow between France and Spain. And make sure you stick around for the end of the show, where I'll be giving you my thoughts on some of the reaction to the top soccer headlines going on in the football world. Before we start off, I'd like to ask that you please like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show. So to ensure that your questions get read on the air, I ask that you use the Tips and Donations link at GSMCpodcast.net with your questions. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I can see it. But it also really helps grow the show. So again, the link is GSMCpodcast.net. We have to start off with Atletico Madrid, they have made some new signings, specifically with the likes of being able to sign a player in Julián Álvarez, and also Conor Gallagher. These two signings not officially through, yet to be officially official. The medicals and all that are happening as we speak, all that. But this is happening, Julián Álvarez, he will be an Atletico Madrid player. So will Conor Gallagher. These two players will be Atletico Madrid players, and they'll come in and they're sort of players that can make this team better. Julián Álvarez is a potential world-class talent that gives you flexibility, that can play so many different positions. Kind of provides you like another sort of Griezmann in terms of that. Someone who I believe can play as a number 9, can play any of the winger positions, just give you real flexibility. He'll work hard for Diego Simeone. He's a hustler. He'll do the pressing. He won't be afraid to come back and do some of the defensive duties as well. You saw what he does for Argentina, covering up the holes that Messi has in terms of his defensive presence. Messi, he's not going to do any sort of pressing. He's really going to be a cone in there. And Julián Álvarez not only did the work for himself, but also did the work for Messi. In that sort of, number 9 role. It was kind of a weird position he played at Argentina because they didn't really go with a traditional formation. They kind of played him alongside Messi. But he provides that sort of flexibility in terms of what you're able to do if you're Atletico Madrid. And he's a really good player. He's a really good talent. And a signing like that, yes, they did sign him for, I believe it was around 85-90 million or so, which is a lot of money nowadays, especially for a striker that wasn't even a first team player at the club that he was at previously. But at the end of the day, this transfer window this is what it is. Players tend to be overvalued in this transfer window. Players, there's ridiculous fees. Even Conor Gallagher going for 40 million now. I wouldn't say that's exactly a horrible amount for Conor Gallagher. I do think Gallagher is a pretty good player, but still 40 million is a lot of player. And this is not exactly Conor Gallagher, a player that has a chance to be like an elite sort of player. We know what he is. He's a hard working. He'll put a foot in. He'll cover a lot of ground. He also has enough technical ability to play in midfield for a club like Atletico. He has that once in a while ability to make a goal out of nothing with his long range shooting. Sometimes he can make late runs into the box that are hard to pick up. And he's comfortable on the ball, and he's good, and he's decent in tight spaces even when time is compressed. But he ain't elite. He ain't elite. Chelsea, they wouldn't be letting him go if he was an elite sort of player. despite the fact that he's been a part of a midfield that has there's about $300 million worth in that midfield. It was two people with Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, and he's been the best midfielder. He was the best midfielder at the club last season, most consistent game in, game out. So Gallagher is a very good player. Don't get me wrong, he's a very, very good, very, very talented. Not talented, but he'll put a foot in and all that. He's just not at that level. But for a team like Diego Simeone in Atletico Madrid, he's similar to the Koke's and the Rodrigo de Balls, in which he'll run around, he'll put a foot in, he'll just have enough footballing ability to keep the ball moving. He's not going to be a game changer for midfield, but he'd be someone that'll be very consistent, and that Diego Simeone can count on game in, game out to do the job. I think Diego Simeone, all he wants is consistency, especially in that position. It's important to have consistency, game in, game out, and I think a guy like Conor Gallagher provides that. So yeah, with these new signings, can they compete with Barcelona and Real Madrid? Atletico Madrid has had some teams in the past that we expected to be a little bit better, team they had last year before that, we expect them to at least be in the title race, in the second half of the season. And we have not really gone from that. We've had a lot of summers, a lot of transfer windows where we've been promised, okay, this is the time, this is when they'll turn it around. Diego Simeone is going to start playing progressive football. They're going to be dynamic in transition, and they're going to be able to keep the ball with the best of teams, and they won't have to park the bus. And then they take on the first decent opposition of the season, and they have 11 men in the box, and they're defending for their lives, and they're observing pressure, and that's what they'll always be. They'll always, under Diego Simeone, they'll always resort to that. That is his style. That is what he is comfortable with. And at the end of the day, a manager won't change his ways, especially a manager like Diego Simeone, who has been so stubborn in the way that they play. He's been like this the entire time, and I don't necessarily think he should change. I don't think he should change. I don't think he should. A lot of people want him to change the style of play because they don't like watching it, especially when the results are not coming in terms of competing for the La Liga. But, Diego Simeone is the highest paid manager in the world, and for a reason. He's had this team in the past punch above their weight, and he's won multiple La Ligas now. He's reached multiple Champions League finals. He's had this team punch above their weight and do it in a fabulous fashion. I mean, even the two Champions League finals he played, they played in Atletico Madrid. The first game, he was a minute away from winning the game, literally like a one last-minute header away from winning the Champions League against Real Madrid. And the second Champions League, he was a penalty shootout against Real Madrid away from winning the Champions League. So this is a guy that's got them to punch above their weight. So I don't think Diego Simeone needs to necessarily of play like everyone is asking him of to do, or not. That if he wants to go in and be defensive and make it hard for teams and make them break you down and don't give them, okay. But I think Atletico Madrid need to look a little bit more dangerous in transition, and I think bringing Julián Álvarez, this is a guy, Julián Álvarez, that has the ability to run in behind. He's not Mbappe or anything, but he does have that ability to run in behind, and they just need to be more deadly in terms of that aspect of themselves. Consistency. This is Atletico Madrid team as well, that the performances, last year they reached the quarterfinals, I believe, of the Champions League, but they were very poor against Inter Milan, really, really poor. And Inter Milan kind of allowed Atletico Madrid to get past them. They kind of gave it away, especially with the late game travesty that we saw from Inter Milan. And then Atletico Madrid going up against a Borussia Dortmund, I know Dortmund ended up reaching the final, which shows the deficiencies of PSG, that they played the next round later. But they should have took care of Dortmund too, with the players that they have, with the experience that was in that team. They should have took care of Dortmund. They were in a promising position in the first leg, especially early on, and they just let it slip away, piece by piece, and then they had that ultimate collapse at the end. of that in that Dortmund game, playing in the yellow wall, and you know, um, things like that cannot happen. Things like that cannot happen, and I don't know if there's an easy fix for that. I think that's maybe a mentality issue at the club, a mentality issue amongst the players, and if that's the case, that's an even bigger problem, and it's something you wouldn't expect of a Diego Simeone team. Diego Simeone, you know, you wouldn't expect the team to have, mental gasps, mental issues in terms of the fact that, when the going gets tough, they're not able to rise out of it. You won't expect that from a Diego Simeone team. You really wouldn't. But going to Atletico Madrid, competing with the likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid, I think these signings make them a little bit better, but there needs to be more work that needs to be done than just the signings of Atletico Madrid and besides the signings of Álvarez and Conor Gallagher, there still needs to be a little bit more done. I think, you play, Lino Ormand coming in, that gives you a little bit, better flexibility. Lino Ormand is going to play along Jimenez. That third center half position is going to be interesting to see. I think the fullbacks, specifically Lino and Llorente, I think you can improve a little bit there. Koke, Gallagher, and DePaul, that's what it's looking like in the midfield. I think you lack that a little bit of creativity in that midfield. And then you're going to have, Julián Álvarez and potentially Griezmann up there. It might be Morata instead. You see the rumors there's Griezmann potentially going to MLS. So that's going to be interesting to watch. But right now, I don't expect them to be competing with Barcelona and Real Madrid. I really don't. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll discuss the Morocco-Egypt, their bronze medal matchup.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed Atletico Madrid's new signings and whether or not they'll be able to complete with Barcelona and Real Madrid. We move on to talk about the bronze medal matchup between Morocco and Egypt. Morocco were able to destroy Egypt to win their first ever medal in the men's Olympic soccer games. They were able to get it done by defeating Egypt 6-0. 6-0 defeat for Egypt. And it was a rout, and honestly, it was a deserved result. And Morocco, they have been much better than Egypt at this tournament. Egypt has had a good tournament, finishing fourth place, winning the group that they did against a team that's now in the final in Spain, being able to beat them and win the group. But if you look at the total football played, game in, game out. Morocco has played much better football. Morocco has been much more exciting. Morocco has been more supported at this Olympic Games, and you saw that in the bronze medal matchup. They're completely red, and they're both red, but you know what I mean. Really ruckus when Morocco scored in full-time whistle. But yes, Sofiane Rahimi, he was able to score 2 goals as he puts his goal tally up to a ridiculous, I believe, 7 goals now. 7 goals now, if I'm not mistaken. 7, something like that. This is the first time they've ever reached the podium at the Olympic Games. Besides Sofiane Rahimi, Abdi Azalzouli, you know him if you're a Barcelona fan, came up the ranks at Barcelona, you know him. Abdi Azalzouli was able to score. Bilal El Khounous, Akram Nakash, and Akraf Hakimi was also able to get his second goal actually of this tournament today. Absolutely sublime free kick. I mean, it was a sensational free kick from that sort of distance. It's not shooting range. And then you saw the celebrations. You saw the coach almost running. He did run. He was on the field essentially, hugging Hakimi with the group of the rest of the team, jumping up. It was really a beautiful scene to watch. And it was beautiful to show a coach show that kind of emotion, because you don't really see that much. Rahimi actually has 8 goals at these Olympic Games, which is the most in the tournament, and he's the only player in Olympic history to score in 6 consecutive games. He scored in all 3 group stage games. He scored in quarterfinal. He scored in the semifinal, and he has scored 2 in the bronze medal game. And he's really, that's what you're expecting. That sort of performance, that sort of consistency, that sort of statistics is what you expect of an overage player playing in. That's why I put high emphasis on the overage players in terms of determining their performances, especially when I was critical of the likes of Georgi Mihailovic and Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman a little bit to an extent, but way more so with the rest of the two. Because you hold these overage players to higher expectation. Because when you are an overage player, you're expected to dominate a U23. And what he did is dominate this tournament. He was a nightmare for center halves to deal with. He was clinical with his opportunities. He was 100% from the penalty spot. I believe he had 4 penalties, high pressurized penalties as well. That's what you want from a striker. Egypt, they finished 3rd. This is the 4th time actually. This is the 3rd time that they finished. No, Egypt finished 4th. This is the 3rd time they finished 4th. They've actually finished 4th, 3rd at the Amsterdam Olympics in 1928 and Tokyo Olympics in 1964. They've been to a lot of quarterfinals. We know that recently. I believe 3 straight or something. So, but yes, Morocco. They've been, they've had a great tournament. They played some fascinating football. They've played some sensational, high-energy, high-octane football. They fed off the fans who packed in every single game. Really had created an amazing atmosphere. You had some players break out. Azalzouli, he broke out this tournament. We got to see his pace. His pace was really deadly. Someone else I was really impressed with, Amir Richardson, his ability to control in midfield. I'll tell you what, Amir Richardson, he will challenge Unahi and Amrabat. He will challenge them in the national team for a position, for a spot there, because Amir Richardson has some quality. He has some ability. I see a lot of good quality in him. He can have that physical nature too. Being as tall as he is, he'll be a danger in set pieces just with the height. Really, really good player. Kind of reminds me, not the way he plays. I think he's a little different, but you know how Fellaini was in terms of being a set piece sort of specialist. He could develop into that sort of player, but also be very tidy in midfield, be comfortable, has decent passing range, has good control of the ball. Really a great addition to Morocco, being able to convince him not only to fight off the U.S., who he is eligible for through his dad, who actually is, his dad is actually, which I just figured this out recently, his dad is Michael Ray Richardson, former Brooklyn Nets and former Brooklyn Nets and New York Knicks player. So which makes sense why he's tall. Which wouldn't make sense why he's tall. So they convinced they not only Morocco were able to convince him, but they were also able to convince him away from France, which is his birthright, where he was born in, and I assume where he was raised at as well. So Morocco has done a very good job, being able to convince these sort of players with dual nationality. Achraf Hakimi, he's Spanish by birth and by being raised. He was raised in Madrid, born in Madrid, came up the youth ranks at Real Madrid, and to be able to convince him to join this Moroccan setup has also been Brahim Diaz as well in terms of the national team. So they've done a very, very good job. Morocco, they're revolutionizing this federation. With the semi-final appearance at the World Cup, bronze medal at this Olympic Games. A few years or 10 years ago or so, Morocco started putting more emphasis in the youth team and the youth setup, developing not only the players but also the coaches, the football education, and they've made that a very big deal in terms of development, which I think of a lot of African countries can get that right in terms of not just looking at the first team in terms of seeing how good the team is or not and what we need to do or not just looking at the first team, but setting up a foundation for the youth coming up, giving them futsal pitches and this and this and this and that, so that they can develop the technical ability young, and you can also create a sort of nature that they have to them in terms of, when you get taught something young, it gets embedded in you. In terms of understanding of the game, in terms of just pure technical ability, being able to develop that at a young age, having them to think, being forward thinking from a young age, those sort of skills, developing more gifted players. It starts off from the youth. It starts off from young. Having an emphasis on that at a young age is when you see the progression through the older players and the national team. That's how it goes. And to do that, you prioritize the youth tournaments as well. And these youth tournaments is Olympic Games. That's a perfect example in which they've been able to prioritize it really, really well. And they've created a great experience for a lot of these players to play at a fairly high level in a great atmosphere, in an atmosphere to be tested, and they've passed the test. They're really unfortunate that they're not really in the final with the way that they've played throughout this entire tournament, and the heartbreaking late loss to Spain, to Fermin Lopez and those boys, who we'll talk about later as they take on France in tomorrow's gold medal match edition. But this is a good win for Morocco. Speaking about this game, Ilyas Akomac said, "We wanted to win the gold medal, that's for sure. But to win a game like this, to get our country's first ever medal here, and in front of so many fans, it feels incredible." And that's what it is. That's what it really comes down to. They're able to get that medal, and they did it in fascinating fashion. Ezal Zoli scored an amazing goal. Hakimi, that amazing free kick. Rahimi, the way he attacked that header 3 minutes after Ezal Zoli's goal to basically put the coffin in. That's when you knew, okay, Egypt needs to hold on. Egypt coach Rogerio Mikhail, who was actually the coach that led Brazil to win the gold medal at home so in 2016 Olympics, spoke about this game, saying, "All credit to Morocco. They were incredible in front of a goal. They had a very high percentage in terms of their finishing. For us, it wasn't to be today." And they were really just completely dominated. And for me, you could tell that there was a real emotional letdown in the way that they lost to France. There had to be. And Morocco responded better mentally than Egypt did to the heartbreaking loss that both teams suffered in the semifinals. And Morocco got help by the home, being essentially the home team in terms of the atmosphere. That definitely helped them. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we react to Mauricio Pochettino emerging as a top candidate for the USMNT managerial position.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed Morocco destroying Egypt to win their first ever medal in the men's Olympic soccer. We move on to discuss Mauricio Pochettino. He has emerged as the top candidate for the USMNT managerial position, according to some good sources. He has emerged since he had left Chelsea at the end of the last season. The Mauricio Pochettino, he actually happens to be a very top solid candidate for a lot of positions through teams in the top leagues and also national teams. I believe I spoke about this yesterday when I talked about the England national team, the FA, have agreed for England to look for a foreign coach if that's what they deem as the sort of next possibility. We know Pochettino, what he's been able to do in the Premier League. That's definitely something that they can factor in the English FA. There's no doubts about it in determining their coach, especially with the clearance of getting a foreign coach. Yes, Mauricio Pochettino, he has USSF sporting director Matt Crocker actually spoke to Pochettino in mid-July. A lot of sources have told major sports organizations, and the United States, they're gonna go ahead and they could go ahead and offer this sort of plan idea to Pochettino, it was also revealed that Pochettino is a top candidate, and he's one of the favorites for Matt Crocker in the USMNT. It's interesting. It shows that the U.S. Soccer Federation has some ambition. They're not trying to go for the easy sort of hire. And I do think, out of all the options, the USMNT, out of all the realistic options, if this is even a realistic option itself, the USMNT, the U.S. Soccer Federation, would be privileged to be able to get a manager like Mauricio Pochettino. They'll be privileged because Mauricio Pochettino, say what you want or not, this is a manager with tactical understanding in terms of he has an identity in terms of how he wants to play. He's gotten a team in terms of consistency. They've gotten consistency from his teams, especially what he's able to do at Tottenham. He's able to get them playing better than the sum of their parts. He wasn't able to take the next step ever in his career in terms of winning those big-time trophies, right? But is the U.S. really going to be able to get a caliber of manager like Pochettino that's done it also by winning the Champions Leagues and the Premier Leagues and all that? Are they able to get that next sort of level of manager? Absolutely not. So, you settle for the best thing there is. And Pochettino, He'll come in and he'll come in with a tactical understanding. He'll come in with a tactical identity. He'll come in and there won't be, there won't be the nonsense that there was under Berhalter. Now, Pochettino, he's not exactly like, Pochettino is not, he's not Bob Bradley or something that's going to come in and, no nonsense, no BS, straight blah, blah, blah. No, he has, he is kind of a player's coach at the same time, a player's manager, but he won't stand for the BS, He won't dance around the media questions the way Greg Berhalter does. There's not going to be these horrible lineup choices or these horrible squad choices. Pochettino will choose the best players for the squad. Pochettino will get the players in the right position to be able to play the right style of play. Pochettino will be able to adjust in-game tactically, have an understanding of what's going on, and being able to adapt in crucial situations. Pochettino will provide all that. He's a very, very good manager. He's dealt with egos. He's dealt with the top players. There'll be no nonsense. There won't be any of this BS. And the mentality too. There'll be a mentality shift amongst these players that a lot of these players have a losing mentality. A lot of these players have a losing mentality. I go back to the Copa America. You get eliminated in a group stage with Bolivia, Panama, Uruguay. A group stage that week. Uruguay is a good team, but the rest, that group stage that week, and you don't get out of that group. And after the Copa America, or after the end of that game against Uruguay, I believe it was Matt Turner coming out saying, we're still headed in the right direction, blah, 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 blah. Are you kidding me? What a lack of accountability, what a losing mentality, and what a scary place the U.S. U.S. men's national team find themselves in, of things like that has suddenly become unacceptable. It's not acceptable for that, and there is a mentality issue amongst this team. These players, they don't perform the same level that they do for their club, and that's something I also think Pochettino will be able to maximize the ability of these players, and he'll get these players playing as well as they do for their club. He'll get them to play for the national team. Absolutely, I have no doubt about that. I think Pochettino, amongst the realistic options that we have, I think he'll be a solid option. I think he'll be a very solid option, and maybe a change in how he does it in terms of day-to-day and international team. Maybe takes him to the next level in the fact that this is the sort of tournaments that he's able to get over the line. Maybe he's just a better, manager in this sort of setting. Who knows? You don't know. That's why there's that unknown element as well to it that makes us exciting. Because at the end of the day, what we're also trying to do is build a team for 2026, but we're also trying to, build some excitement towards 2026. The U.S. men's soccer team and men's Olympic team, to an extent, have done a very, very, very good job of deflating the fans after the summer and really de-elevating, or that's not a word, but really decreasing the amount of expectations that we have entering a home World Cup. They've really, brought us down in terms of the way we think about this team. And there was always, and it didn't start off just from the summer. That's the thing, though. I'll add to this. It did not start off from this summer, from this Copa America and these Olympic Games. It started off going all the way back to last year's Nations League against Mexico. Whenever an hour before the game, they announced Greg Berhalter was staying on as the USMNT manager. That's when it started. And it's only gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse from there. So this fan base, we need a rejuvenation heading into the World Cup. We want to start believing again. I go into games with Berhalter thinking, if we get maybe we can get this result, maybe not, but I know what's coming. We'll eventually get it. I went into this Copa America, not excited at all. I went into 2016 Copa America excited as heck. I was so excited. I was like, we can get past this group stage and, maybe we can do some things. I went into this Copa America. We'll get past. We'll scrape by Bolivia, Panama, and then we'll probably lose. Maybe get a point against Uruguay, but still we'll lose on goal differential and not win the group. And then we'll get eliminated by Brazil, or we'll get eliminated by Colombia, or don't even. We'll get knocked out right away. Because I understood that this team has a ceiling with Greg Berhalter. We don't win games that we're not supposed to win. And I think Pochettino coming in, he gives you that sort of, Pochettino in the international scene, he's more accomplished than a lot of international managers, and there won't be many games that we're gonna go up against. If we can hire Pochettino, if we can hire him, there's not many times that we'll go into games thinking, okay, our manager could get outthought in this situation. We're not gonna go into many games thinking that. I think with Greg Berhalter at the wheel, we thought, okay, we're gonna have to win in spite of Greg Berhalter. I think it'll go to the point that not only we're not gonna think we're gonna win in spite of Pochettino. No, I think we can win games because of Pochettino. And for the U.S., that's what you need. That's what you need. You need a coach with tactical understanding to get the best out of the players that we have. That's why I didn't understand Gareth Southgate. That'd be a hopeless sort of hire for the U.S. because the U.S. need a tactically brilliant manager to get us playing better than the sum of our parts. Not someone that'll be positive and they'll keep the group together and that'll be a brilliant manager. That's not what we need. We need someone that can deal with the mentality of these players and come in and shift the mentality and get them playing good football and have a tactical understanding of being able to outmanage other coaches. That's what we need to get us better players, a better team than the sum of our parts. That's what we need. So, I think Pochettino will be a great hire. And we'll see if the U.S. can get it done. I think that'll be absolutely amazing. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll preview the men's Olympic soccer gold medal match between France and Spain.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC. To access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. Before the break, we reacted to Mauricio Pochettino emerging as a top candidate for the USMNT managerial position. We move on to preview the men's soccer Olympic gold medal match between France and Spain. We've talked about the Olympic Games now for the last couple weeks. And it all comes down to this tomorrow, the men's Olympic game final, going on between the perceived, the host, the favorites entering this tournament versus, a team in Spain that are trying to complete a dominant summer of winning the European Championship and Olympic Games, and they'll be doing this on the road. In the Parc des Princes, Parc des Princes, in a way sort of atmosphere. In France, they've had to dig deep to get where they are today. They had that very, very fiery rivalry, aggressive fights, everything that could have happened on a football pitch, sort of quarterfinal win over Argentina, and then they had that late game heroics against Egypt in extra time to scrape by them to reach where they are today. Spain, they were able to defeat the Japanese relatively easily in terms of 3-0 outcome. Then they had to have some late game heroics as well to get past Morocco. But a Morocco team that's been brilliant this tournament and that went on to win their next game, the bronze medal game, 6-0. So it kind of raises the, in my opinion, the performance of that Spain Morocco game. So they're both here. They both reached the finals. They both have had interesting journeys. Spain, they actually did not win their group. In the group stages, they actually lost their final game to Egypt, which ended up costing them the group. But they were able to still defeat the group winners the Japanese, while Spain was able to get past Morocco. And then what's going on with France, they had a comfortable group stages, 3-3, and then they were tested. They were really, really testing their quarterfinal, semifinal games, but they're able to rise back. I gotta say, the pressure that's on these French players is huge. It'll be an embarrassment if you don't win if you don't win these Olympic Games. Playing these Olympic Games at home, and also with the fact that, you're coached by Thierry Henry, you have, Jean-Philippe Mateta, Lacazette, Michael Olise, you got players like Ryan Cherki that's on the bench, Loic Bade, another very good overage player holding it down in the center half position. You have this team, you have this coach that's really under huge pressure because he's looking at this Olympic Games as a springboard to revamp his his managerial career that's been very mediocre up to this point. When you look at what he's been able to do at Montreal, Monaco, and all that, has been very poor, and he wants to sort of trampoline himself back into a decent managerial job after this. I assume he doesn't want to stay with the French youth setup. I don't expect him to want to do that. And he's reached the final. I don't think any of that has to do with him, quite frankly. I think they just happen to have a really, really talented, very good talented team. I don't think tactically they really look that dominant. I don't think they have a very particularly good style of play. I don't think they do have a style of play. I just think they play to the quality of the players. And I think Thierry Henry is going on for a very great ride. Because it's not like they're dominating these games as well. With the quality that they have, they should be dominating the likes of Egypt. Look what Morocco was able to do against Egypt, And don't bring up Egypt going up against Spain. That was a Spain second team in that group stages. Look at what Morocco was able to do against Egypt compared to what France, France going on against Argentina, they could have, that game really should have went to extra time. I forgot who it was, but had a great opportunity in the back post. Morocco, they dominated Argentina in aspects of the game. And Argentina looked poor in that group stages. Look, I think France can find themselves in trouble. I think this is the best team that they'll face at these Olympic Games, and this is a team in Spain that can take the possession away from them, and that can make France sit in and push France back and make France a counter-attacking team, which I don't think that suits to the nature of the players that they have. Because if you want to play counter-attacking, you gotta be clinical. And Lacazette and Jean-Philippe Mateta, they haven't been clinical. That's the one thing. France have had a lot of chances these Olympic Games, and they have not been clinical enough. They missed so many chances down the stretch against Egypt to equalize the game before Jean-Philippe Mateta eventually equalized. Against Argentina, they had so many, opportunities to get that second goal. They weren't able to do so. I don't think it'll play I don't think it's the best approach for them, and I don't think they'll have that choice, because I think Spain has the ability to control possession. They'll be able to dominate possession. And the France, they're gonna need to play. The crowd is gonna have to be the 12th man. The big time players need to show up. The Lacazette, the Michael Olises, the Jean-Philippe Mateta, they have to be clinical. Lacazette, if he performs the way he did against Egypt in terms of his, in terms of not being able to get the ball in the back of the net despite a great number of opportunities, they will lose the gold medal game, and it will go down as one of the most embarrassing moments in men's Olympic soccer history, because this tournament is literally written for France. This men's Olympic gold medal is literally written for France. And it's not only going to be embarrassing for the French men's Olympic soccer team, but it'll also be embarrassing for Thierry Henry in terms of not being able to lead this France team to the Olympic gold medal final. So I think the pressure is hugely on France, which, yes, it makes them deadly because of the fact that they are the home team. And that's what generates a lot of the pressure, or most of the pressure, the fact that they are the home team. So that makes them deadly at the same time because they are the home team. But also, makes it difficult in the fact that, the longer it stays 0-0, the later it goes into the game, the more pressure that goes up. It takes one mental gaps, one error, and you could lose the gold medal game. I think Spain is going to win the game. I think Spain, they're going to spoil the party. I think they're going to control possession. I think Fermin Lopez will get on the end of a few opportunities. I think defensively, Spain have been very, very solid. They haven't conceded much clear-cut opportunities, let alone conceded in general. They've been very, good defensively throughout this entire tournament, besides when they essentially played that second team against Egypt. I believe they've conceded, I think, one goal besides that, or 2 goals because they conceded that goal against Morocco. Haven't conceded much defensively. I think Kubarasi and Eric Garcia have been very, very solid in the back. Obviously, I've talked about Fermin Lopez, what he's been able to do throughout this entire tournament. They've been clinical with the opportunities that they've gotten, and I think they can control the ball against France. I think that's what makes them deadly. Their ability to be able to control the ball. And I don't think France will be able to create enough clear-cut opportunities against the Spanish defense. But there's a chance. There's going to be it's going to be great to watch. Spain, they're going to try to right their wrong from the last Olympic gold medal game that they played, which happened to be in the Tokyo Olympics. You remember in the Tokyo Olympics, they took a really strong team. They took a lot of players that were involved in the European Championship a few weeks earlier. They took Pedri, they took Dani Olmo, they took Mikel Oyarzabal. They had Mikel Merino as an overage player. They took Eric Garcia, who was also part of that European Championship team. I believe Unai Simon was also involved of that Spain's Olympic soccer team. They took a really, really, really strong team to the Olympic Games, and they still lost to Brazil in that gold medal match. Now they go with a different approach. They don't take their best, because if they went with the approach that they had that last Olympic Games in 2021, this Spanish team would be deadly in the fact that they'd have Nico Williams, they'd have Lamine Yamal, they'd have Pedri again. Well, no, they wouldn't because he was injured. But they could build a really, really strong team. But they've decided to go with a little bit different approach. They were criticized a lot for running their players to the ground over the past few years or so. So they've gone with a different approach, but they're still back, and I think they'll win these Olympic Games 2-1 against France. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to some of the top soccer headlines. Before the break, we previewed the men's soccer Olympic gold medal match between France and Spain. We move on to react to some of the top soccer headlines going on in the soccer world. We got to start off with Pepe. Pepe has announced his retirement from football, aged 41. He was the oldest player to play at the European Championship finals when they were eliminated by France in that quarterfinal game in penalty shootouts. You saw him, the emotions after the game, which could have been a telltale because we've hardly seen those sort of emotions from Pepe ever. You know, he was very, very emotional, and it was it could have been a tell, but yes, he's been a legend for Real Madrid, for Portugal, even for Porto. He's been an absolute legend. The consistency, the longevity, it's been brilliant. 141 caps that he's had for Portugal. Only Ronaldo and João Moutinho have more caps, and what he's been able to do for Real Madrid, it's been amazing. He's a European champion with Portugal, winning in Euro 2016, being the catalyst at the back for them. In 2016, he also won 3 Champions Leagues and 3 La Liga titles at Real Madrid when he was there for 10 years. He said, Pepe did, I can't help but thank all the presidents who bet and believed in me to be able to perform my work. To all the employees of all the clubs I've been to, who are the soul and essence of the clubs and the national teams. And I want to thank everyone in the background. I want to leave a thank you and a hug of gratitude for all of you. Pepe has accomplished a lot. Pepe has a lot of accolades. Told you about him being the oldest player to play at a European Championship. He also became the oldest goal scorer in Champions League when he scored against Antwerp in the group stages at last year's editions of the Champions League. He played 334 games for Real Madrid when Real Madrid were the European dominant team. We know what Pepe was in terms of the not discipline issues, because he didn't have off the field issues, but I'm talking about on the pitch discipline issues, having an extremely amount of high red cards and some big red cards too. I remember one of the biggest ones is came in that 2014 World Cup opening game of the group stages. They're down to Germany 2-0, and around the 35th minute or so, he gets into the face of Thomas Müller, kind of headbutts him. Thomas Müller was on the ground and gets a red card there. Sort of moments like that, a lot of rash moments that he's done throughout his career. Him and Ramos, but him to a little bit of a bigger extent. But he's been an absolute legend. He's one of the best center backs of all time. He's had multiple times of being in the best 11. He goes down as one of the best Portuguese players of all time. And yeah, to show the impact he's had, there's been so many players that came out and reacted. Luka Modric saying legend, Bruno Alves saying the best center back in history of Portugal. James coming out saying something of that extent. Jose Fonte, thanks for everything, friend. It was a pleasure and honor to have played alongside you. I'm so proud to have done a double. Sen Kutulson saying thank you for your amazing career, legend. Anderson Talisca, not even players that didn't play for him. A lot of players came out, with positive, sort of comments to Pele. And then Ronaldo, who actually was able to pay tribute to on social media, saying there are not enough words to express how much you mean to me, friend. We won everything there was to win on the field, but the greatest achievement is the friendship and respect I have for you. You are unique, my brother. thank you so much. And they have a very great relationship. Pepe and Ronaldo has had. So it's sad to see a legend go and retire, but it's been coming now. He's 41 years old, and what he's been able to accomplish has been great. And now he gets to settle down and gets to live with his family, and that's really the life after football that we all want to get to. Thierry Henry, he actually in a not press conference, but looking ahead to the final, in a press conference, he's shown a little bit of personality. He's never really shown personality as a player, in terms of emotion, but you see that here when Thierry Henry spoken about this game. He said, "When we decide to be together, we are unstoppable, no matter the outcome of a match or support." And that I think we needed after what happened a little bit before the competition. He didn't exactly specify what he was talking about, but there was obviously a lot of political issues that's been going on in France over the past 2 weeks or so. And but continue to speak about that. He said, "As I often say, when we know how to come together to unite, we are still not bad, and when we have then we have a beautiful country." I can't compare. No, that's not what I wanted to say. Speaking after the game against Egypt in the semifinal, he said, "I've never had my kids at my stadium looking at me with my team, because when I got my kids, I was almost at the end of my career. So having them around is something I've never felt before, never experienced, and I experienced a lot. The possibility to see my kids sharing that moment with me and everybody and friends, that beats everything for me, and it's the Olympic Games in your country. So if you're not emotional with that, then you have a problem." And they'll have a chance to, make history tomorrow. Big history tomorrow. So we'll see. Atalanta has signed Retegui from Genoa. Atalanta have signed the Italian forward. He was involved for Italy at this European Championship. It's around 28 million euros. Retegui has been looked at as one of the more one of the more better prospects coming for Italy and Italian national team, and it's really important for them. Former African football president Issa Hayatou has passed away. He's actually been FIFA's president as well on an interim basis after the arrest during the corruption scandal. Issa Hayatou has passed away. Sad news there coming out of Paris. MLS terminates contract of Cincinnati's Aaron Bopendensa. The league did not disclose a reason for this, but it was reported that Bopendensa did not fulfill his contractual obligations, so he has been let go. Man United, they take on Manchester City in the Community Cup final, Community Shield, this Saturday. And Ten Hag came out saying they have some defensive issues, which is interesting because that kind of contradicts what he said a few days ago when he says there's no issues at this club when it comes to the center half positions. It's interesting, this guy in press conferences. One day he says something, the other day he just completely contradicts it. It's actually very funny. It's really funny, but we'll see how they're able to do in the Community Cup, Community Shield. We'll actually be discussing that game tomorrow. Everton, this is going to be their final season at Goodison. It's been 100% completed, and they're going to seek a more level-headed season in this final season at Goodison. So that's going to be an interesting storyline to see throughout the season, because this is going to be their good farewell to Goodison, a stadium with a lot of history. So that's going to be really, really good. Arsenal coach has hired professional pickpocketers to teach his Arsenal squad a lesson. Arteta, he has some interesting things that he's done. We saw it during the documentary, but he has revealed that he's gotten pickpocketers to come in and during the lunch or dinner and all that, or during dinner, and Arteta has asked the players to empty their pockets after dinner, with the team finding some of their personal effects missing. The boss unveiled that he got pickpocketers to go to the squad and to sneakily steal some stuff, so that they can to teach them a lesson that they need to be alert and prepared at all times over this upcoming campaign. That's very interesting thing there. I've never seen that before, but we'll see if that works. Who knows? Thank you guys for tuning in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
That day, yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go.